Hey everyone, Cine Review Hub friends. Welcome to your channel. Every week we're going to dive into the trendiest Hollywood happenings, the latest celebrity news, film box office numbers, and all the new movies that are coming out. Get ready, you won't want to miss it.
Last week, some pretty wild stuff happened. First off, the movie 28 Years Later was released. Critics had already been calling this one of the best zombie movies in years. The critics from Time, Variety, and The Telegraph gave it a perfect score. It got an 89 on Rotten Tomatoes and a 76 on Metacritic. For a zombie horror movie, those are some seriously good scores. In its first week, it had an incredible opening weekend, bringing in a whopping $60 million.
What's cool is that the movie's budget was also exactly $60 million, so it made all its money back on opening day. The low budget was because it was filmed on iPhones. It looks like the film will be making a nice profit within the next week, and it's only been out for 6 days.
At the same time, Pixar's 28th animated film, Elio, also hit theaters. It had received some pretty good scores before its release, with an 83 from Rotten Tomatoes and a 66 from Metacritic. Its budget was $150 million, but something weird happened. In its first 3 days, it only sold $35 million in tickets, making it one of the weakest openings in Pixar's history. But that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It got an A from CinemaScore, which is a really high grade.
Only people who actually go to the cinema and see the movie can vote, and the poll is only done in North America, so it's considered a very reliable score. After this week opening, Pixar announced they'd be focusing more on making sequels to their old movies. They've already started working on a sequel to Ratatouille, and they're currently in the scriptwriting phase. Pixar is famous for being creative and always coming up with new stories. So, right after that news broke, they said they'd never forget creativity, and announced a new animation called Ghetto. The director is the same person who directed the critically acclaimed film Luca. What's interesting about this animation is that it's entirely hand-drawn, showcasing a new style of animation. The story is about a black cat who loves music in the city of Venice, but is always harassed because of superstition. This animation is scheduled to be released in the summer of 2027, 2 years from now.
Some interesting things also happened with movies that were trending before. The Materialist was released after a lot of hype and a massive marketing campaign. It had received really good initial reviews, with a Rotten Tomatoes score over 90, but something strange happened when it was released. It didn't do very well. It's very likely to become a bad commercial failure. But the opposite happened with the live-action How to Train Your Dragon.
Critics had said it was a good live-action movie, but not really necessary. Because of what the critics said, everyone thought the film wouldn't sell well, but it's now turned a really good profit. What's even more interesting is its IMDb score of 8.1, which puts it alongside some of the greatest films. Mission Impossible, which came out several weeks ago, has seen a significant drop in sales compared to its first weeks. It's had a great run, bringing in $546 million so far, and it's slowly wrapping things up at the box office. The movie Ballerina, which is competing with Mission Impossible as an action film, has also had good sales, crossing the $100 million mark to date. Now let's talk about the movies that are currently trending. The first one is a film called F1, starring Brad Pitt, a joint production between Apple and Warner Bros. It was shown to critics last week and got an 86 from Rotten Tomatoes and a 69 from Metacritic. Critics said the film is very exciting and full of tension and called it highly entertaining. The film's budget was $200 million, and Hans Zimmer composed the soundtrack. In an interview, Hans Zimmer said that Lewis Hamilton himself talked to him and personally convinced him to create the score. This film is technically one of the widest films ever released in cinemas, giving the audience a unique experience. The director of the film is the same person who directed Top Gun. Something cool happened on the red carpet. Tom Cruise, who is a close friend of the director, showed up and surprised Brad Pitt. On the red carpet, Tom Cruise also talked about Top Gun 3, saying he and the same director are going to make it, and that the film will be about Captain Maverick's internal problems. They're going to start production soon. What's interesting is that the director said he's currently trying to create a crossover between the F1 movie and Top Gun, where he wants to bring Captain Maverick and Brad Pitt's character from F1 together in one film. He hasn't yet been able to get the green light from the production companies, but it would be an interesting film. Another movie that everyone's talking about is Jurassic Park. Scarlett Johansson attended the red carpet premiere of the film with her husband, and she ended up causing some controversy. She repeatedly kissed one of her co-stars on the red carpet, which led to a lot of debate on social media about whether what she was doing was right or not. Another film that has already started its promotions is Eden, directed by Ron Howard, one of Hollywood's top-tier directors, who also directed the film A Beautiful Mind. Ana de Armas and Sydney Sweeney are co-stars in this film. Its first trailer was released last week, and its release date is scheduled for August 21st. The story of the film is about a group of people who abandon civilization to understand the meaning of life and go out into nature. When this film was screened for critics a while ago, it didn't get good scores, receiving a 60 from Metacritic and a 57 from Rotten Tomatoes. Another trending film is Odyssey, directed by Christopher Nolan. The company officially announced that the first trailer for Odyssey is going to be released next Friday. For more news, let's go to the big studios. First, we'll start with Amazon, because there's been a lot of important news from them in the past 2 weeks, and it's clear they are seriously planning to solidify their place in the entertainment industry.
One of their main strategies is to go after famous franchises. Last week, after a lot of debate and 5 years, it was finally revealed who the next James Bond director would be. Amazon officially announced that Denis Villeneuve, the director of the film Dune, is going to direct the new James Bond film series. This will be the first James Bond film that is entirely produced by Amazon, and no one else will have any authority over the film. The filming for Dune Part 3 is scheduled to start next week, and it is predicted that by next summer, Denis Villeneuve will have finished all his directorial work, and his time will be completely free to dedicate to the new James Bond. The actor for this film is also going to be chosen next summer. Denis Villeneuve competed with Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother, and won the job of directing this film. After the news was released, Denis Villeneuve himself said that his first memories of going to the cinema were related to James Bond, when he went with his father to watch Dr. No starring Sean Connery. He said he grew up with the James Bond films, is a huge fan, and considers this a sacred realm. The 26th James Bond film is predicted to be released in late 2027. Another thing Amazon is doing is buying the rights to make films and series from the famous Mike Hammer novels. Mike Hammer is a character in a series of crime novels written in the 1940s in America. He's a very popular character. The stories have sharp dialogue and a dark criminal atmosphere. The events usually take place in New York and are full of conspiracies, corruption, and murder. Several films and series have been adapted from these novels so far, and if you're into classics, one of the most famous of these films is Kiss Me Deadly. Now the story gets even more interesting. Amazon has hired the creator of the True Detective series as the writer and director of this film. And the interesting thing is that Matthew McConaughey is also going to play the role of Mike Hammer. So Amazon is using 2 familiar names, the famous novels and the True Detective series. Amazon has also invested in another new film called Highlander, which is going to be remade. The interesting thing is that they've hired Chad Stahelski, the director of the John Wick films, to direct this film. The film was first made in 1986 and tells the story of a group of immortal swordsmen who are born throughout the centuries, but neither get injured nor age. They only die if their heads are cut off. In the version made in '86, Sean Connery was in it.
Now, in this remake, Henry Cavill is going to play the main role as an immortal Scottish man who has a mentor played by Russell Crowe, who is an immortal who's been alive since ancient Egypt.
Amazon is also making another film similar to the Barbie movie called Bratz, the story of which takes place in the world of toys, and Kim Kardashian is going to play the villain. Kim Kardashian is also a producer of the film. Amazon is currently in talks to convince Dave Bautista to join Jake Gyllenhaal in the second part of the film, Roadhouse. The second part of this film is going to be directed by Guy Ritchie. The film's budget has increased compared to the first part, and the filming process is going to start very soon.
Another company that was at the top of the news in the past 2 weeks was Netflix. Of course, this was because of the film The Old Guard and the series Squid Game. The creator of the series said that the third and final season is not going to have a happy ending. He said that as a director, he knows people like happy endings and that he does too, but some stories are inherently unable to have a happy ending, and Squid Game is one of them.
Netflix was also at the top of the news because of another one of its films, The Old Guard Part 2, which stars Charlize Theron and Uma Thurman. The film is going to be released on Netflix this coming Wednesday. The red carpet promotional events are currently being held, and all the cast and crew are present and doing interviews with reporters. Another important news from Netflix was about the sequel to the series Mindhunter. The sequel to this series is going to be made, but what the news suggests is that David Fincher is going to do something unusual. He is not going to make the sequel in the form of a second season. Instead, he is going to release the sequel in 3 two-hour films. Apparently, Fincher has negotiated with Netflix, and Netflix has agreed that the continuation of the story should be in the form of films. David Fincher is going to provide the script for the trilogy to Netflix soon, and if the company is satisfied, the production will begin. David Fincher also has another very important collaboration with Netflix. He's going to make the sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the company. In the past week, there were some interesting complementary details about it, that the film is going to have 128 main actors and 4,000 extras. What's interesting is that the filming is going to take 6 months, while films are usually filmed in 2 or 3 months.
What's cool is that Brad Pitt, on the red carpet for F1, said that they're going to start filming next week in Los Angeles. But the interesting part is that the film still hasn't received the green light from Netflix. And Netflix has not yet officially announced that it's going to make this film. Why is Netflix still not happy? Because the film's budget is already $200 million, and since the film is being made in Los Angeles, it has to pay $20 million in taxes. And David Fincher is not willing to change the location. Because of this, they are still fighting with David Fincher until the last minute. The news next week will probably reveal whether they've started filming or not. David Fincher was also in the news for another reason, the making of a sequel to the film The Social Network. But this time, David Fincher is not going to be the director. He's only going to help with the writing. The writer of the first film is also going to write part of the script and is going to direct the film.
What's interesting is that the film is not going to be a direct sequel to the previous film that David Fincher made. Instead, it's going to turn a series of articles and exposés that the Wall Street Journal had against Facebook into a film. They are currently negotiating for Jesse Eisenberg to return to his role, and an official contract has not yet been signed. The director who wants to make this film believes that when the January 6th insurrection happened in 2021, Facebook was the main cause of the chaos. And he probably wants to bring this topic into his film to show how social media can cause chaos. Another company that had a few short news stories last week was Disney. An old and repetitive piece of news was repeated again for the umpteenth time. Orlando Bloom gave an interview and said that a new series of Pirates of the Caribbean films is going to be made, and Disney has negotiated with him to return to the films. Of course, Bloom himself said he has no other information about what the script is going to be like or what other actors are going to be in the film. He just knows that Disney wants to bring back the old cast. After this interview, the producer of the new Pirates of the Caribbean films officially confirmed that the 6th Pirates of the Caribbean film
is going to be like its previous installments and will bring back the old actors. It's still not known whether Johnny Depp will return to the films or not. This news has been repeated in the media for more than 3 years.
There were also 2 news stories from Marvel and Disney. It was revealed that Jon Bernthal has joined the new Spider-Man film to play the role of the Punisher. The new Spider-Man film is called Spider-Man Brand New Day, and it's scheduled to be released in August 2026, which is about a year from now. Sadie Sink, one of the actors from the series Stranger Things, is also one of the actors in this film, and she's going to play Peter Parker's new girlfriend.
Disney also experienced a bad failure last week. Its new series, which it had a lot of hopes for, Ironheart, was released. Ironheart is a new character who is supposed to replace Iron Man. After Iron Man was removed from this universe, they not only changed this character's gender, but also changed her skin color. Despite a lot of promotion and money spent, the reactions were very negative. The first 3 episodes of this series have been released and have received a score of 4.3 out of 10 on IMDb. Of course, it wasn't just the public score that was low. The series also received very low scores from critics. For the next news, let's go to the celebrities. One short news story is that Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom have divorced after 9 years of marriage. They also had a child together. They did not announce the reason for their divorce and separated completely amicably without any drama or fighting.
Rachel Zegler also gave an interview last week and said that after the film Snow White was released, people walked all over her, threatened her with death, and made fun of her and cursed at her so much that even though she thought she was a very strong and tough person, she suffered from anxiety and panic attacks. She had to take several different kinds of pills to reduce her stress and said that she would probably be taking a break from social media for a while to try to bring calm back into her life.
Another piece of celebrity news, which again was related to divorce, was about the Johnny Depp trial. Johnny Depp made a controversial statement in a new interview. He said that his trial became so controversial because those who were starting the Me Too movement, in order to make their movement more prominent and create a media wave for it, came and used his name. He said that Me Too by itself did not have enough power to attract media attention, and they took advantage of his trial.
Well, this statement caused an attack from Amber Heard's fans. It was exactly after this interview that Amber Heard was able to get her first role after her trial with Johnny Depp, which was not for a movie, but for a theater play in America. So probably in the next few weeks, more information will come out about what role she was given. And this actress, who had emigrated to Spain after her trial, is going to return to America after 3 years. We'll have to see what kind of reception she gets.
Another piece of news about celebrities is about Will Smith. Will Smith said in a new interview that he was offered the role in the film Inception, and he turned it down. He said something very strange that made a lot of people on social media surprised, that Christopher Nolan himself personally came to his house and gave him the script and asked him to accept the main role in the film. He said he sat and read the script and talked to Christopher Nolan several times, but he couldn't understand the script at all and didn't know what the story was about. So he turned down the offer, and then the role went to Leonardo DiCaprio. And you know how successful that film was. What's interesting is that Will Smith also turned down the role of Neo in the Matrix films for the exact same reason.
The Wachowski siblings also came and talked to him and gave him the script, but because he didn't understand what the story was about, he also turned down the role of Neo, which later went to Keanu Reeves. People on social media were joking and saying that if he read scripts a little more carefully, he could have a much better artistic future.
The last and shortest news story from the celebrities is about Bryan Cranston, who gave a new interview and said that he and his wife are on cloud 9 when they see their daughter in the series The Pit. Bryan Cranston's daughter's name is Taylor Dearden.
Of course, on her birth certificate, she has both her father's and mother's last names, but in the acting world, she only uses her mother's last name so that she doesn't live in her father's shadow and get roles because of her father's name.
Bryan Cranston also said that there is nothing more satisfying than for a parent to be able to admire their own child. Cranston married his wife in 1989, and their daughter is now 32 years old. But let's go to the most toxic news of the week. This news is about Miley Cyrus, who gave a new interview and said that she was first chosen to be a voice actress for the Hotel Transylvania animated series. She was very happy that she was entering the cinema world and knew that she could have a very good future there. She could be a voice actress in a lot of musicals. She had also signed an initial contract with Sony Pictures, but then she made a stupid mistake. She didn't realize that she was working in a place that was related to children. She threw a birthday party for her boyfriend to surprise him and ordered a birthday cake with a sexual image on it.
Then she took a picture of herself and the cake and posted it on social media. She went to sleep and woke up the next morning, and Sony Pictures called her and immediately fired her. They told her that she was not suitable to be in any place where children were present. What's interesting is that after they took the role from her, they gave it to Selena Gomez. And after voicing in this role, Selena Gomez's path to cinema was opened to the point that she won the Palme d'Or for Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival just last year.
Well, everyone, this is it for this week's video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Until next week, goodbye.